it's cup of tea time. It's been a couple of weeks, Gonzo, because of midweek games. Well, 2 games, both against Arsenal, but Christmas is less than a week away. Are you excited? Are you fed up?
I'm neither excited nor fed up. I'm tired. I'm tired. I've been shopping today. We've just had a chat just before we went live, and as Geo knows, 6 hours shopping in a precinct or whatever, a shopping mall or whatever you want to call it, with everyone barging into it. It's hard work. I'm knackered, mate.
Well, you should take a leaf out of David Sullivan, because he claims he does shopping in the transfer window 24/7. You get 2 hours sleep a night at the most. That's all you get. Before we talk about the transfer window, it's quite a lot of stories, because we haven't done this for a while. The big one was about a week or 2 ago. I was actually annoyed we couldn't do a cup of tea, because David Sullivan popped up in The Guardian. Did you read his article in The Guardian?
I know of it. I couldn't remember it word for word. I think I did read it, actually, yeah. But, yeah, go on.
Well, he just basically, I haven't wrote any quotes. He basically said, started out with him actually saying that he'd done some mistakes, and then it finished with him actually just blaming Bilic for them. And it started out like, I'm going to own up to some mistakes. Then it sort of went, but, and then it's like, actually, you know what? I'm not to blame for this. I am not to blame. He sort of reverted to type, but it's all news now. But not surprised.
There's just no need for it. It's just been and gone, isn't it? You know, Bilic is gone. He sacked Bilic. There's no point kicking, putting the boot in. There's just no point. Bilic had his flaws, but he was well regarded by the fans. And I think, if anything, I remember seeing it and thinking, well, you've missed that, actually. Whilst he has gone, and whilst a lot of people thought actually probably was time for him to go, he was held in quite high esteem. He was popular amongst the fans. The fans liked him because he was a good man, Bilic. He is a good man, sorry. And so that's poorly advised, and he obviously would have had the old PR team at the club scurrying the next day trying to cover the damage he'd made. I don't know why he does the interviews, just to keep stum, and Moyes wouldn't have appreciated it either. That's the last thing Moyes wanted. The new manager just in place, probably wanted the owners to keep quiet for a little while, actually.
Yeah, there's one bit he did say, which we'll talk about in the middle of the show, about the transfer window. It relates to the transfer window. But since then, Bilic did his first interview since leaving. It was quite short and sweet, really, but he just said he didn't want to have an argument with Sullivan. However, what he said is not quite true. And, well, also Robert Snodgrass tweeted. Did you see Robert Snodgrass's tweet?
Go on.
Well, Sullivan said that about how Bilic wanted Font and Snodgrass.
I did, yes.
Everybody said, well, they're still both at the club, and Font's been arguably our best defender. What are you talking about? And then Snodgrass quoted it saying, everyone's been tagging me this. Just want to say thanks for the support, Mr. Chairman, or something like that, with a few laughing emojis in there. But it's embarrassing.
It's not the conduct. That is not the conduct of, I was going to say a football chairman. It's not actually the conduct of any boss of any company to start publicly criticising their staff or people that are on the payroll. And I don't know what bit in his mind made him think this is a good idea to tell the journalist. The journalist was rubbing their hands, by the way, right? Because the journalist doesn't even have to twist his words. The journalist can say to Sullivan, I am just going to report this honestly. Well, he did. He just reported his words, exactly what he said. Didn't have to twist them. He gets a really good article, the journalist, and Sullivan's probably thinking, oh, that was quite good. But I don't know at what point he thought it'd be good to tell the world that his children were advising him on who to sign and who not to sign. And obviously, not children, they're young adults now. But you know what I'm saying. It still was not cool to do that. It's just really, really poorly advised. But that's what you get when, look, Sullivan won't appoint a director of football. He won't appoint lots of different roles at the job because he likes to do the job himself. So you can bet your ass that he doesn't consult any PR advisors before making any comments. So there was nobody actually to tell him, David, don't do that interview, mate. Keep your head down. Particularly with the old real West Ham fans saying they wanted less coverage, less social media coverage, and less comments from the owners and all the rest of it. It was really poorly timed. Someone should have been in his ear saying, "Don't do this," because there's a backlash to him and there's a backlash to his kids as well.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, actually, about his kids getting the backlash. That type of thing is obviously going to happen. Everyone knew their kids would be saying to their dad about stuff. It just happens. They're a football family. The kids are into football big time. They're going to have opinions just like any other football fan in the world does. So they're obviously going to be saying it. But what their dad's just done is confirm that he sort of listens to them, if you like. And that's the worst thing you could possibly do. Say, yeah, take advice off a 16-year-old at the time and a 19-year-old about who to buy and stuff. Christ almighty, you know, Tony Henry must be thinking as well, going, well, what's the point of me being here if your sons are chipping in? But that's been and gone. The more recent news, Lanzini got his 2-game ban as expected. He's already missed one. But did you see Gray's dive last night?
I didn't, but I've seen lots of people tweeting about it, saying if Lanzini got banned, why didn't Gray get banned?
It's just as bad, if not worse. And it was like it took the game into extra time. It was a match. It was in stoppage time as well. It was a match deciding moment, just like Lanzini's was. The inconsistency of this FA is just ridiculous. Honestly, the rules are so grey these days. They just pick and choose when they're going to inflict these bans. I've got no issue with Lanzini getting banned if everyone else got treated the same. However, they're not, and that's where the inconsistency comes in, and that's what really annoys me with this diving rule. It's good that they're stamping out diving. I'm all for it, but it needs to be done correctly, and that it's just not been done correctly.
No, I know I don't because I didn't see it, but is it just a Premier League thing? Maybe they didn't investigate it. You say it's FA, but the FA just instructed to look at Premier League games? May well be because that was a League Cup, that wasn't part of their remit because it's a 3-man panel. Maybe the 3-man panel don't look at League Cup games. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there that might be the case. Not sure.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, transfer window. You want to talk about this? Most of this show is going to be dedicated to the transfer window. It's 11 days away now. Are you expecting a lot of activity?
I'm not expecting a lot of activity, but I'm expecting significant activity, and I'm expecting I'm expecting some players to leave and some higher profile players to leave in many respects. So, and I don't want to say high profile. I don't expect Lanzini and Mark Noble to leave, but I do expect Sacco to leave. I would expect Ayew to leave, and maybe a couple of others as we discuss it more as well. And I do expect some players to come in because we do need some players. There's a really big thing about this transfer window, which is incredibly important. We were in a position of weakness very, very short time ago, whereby there was a toxic atmosphere surrounding the club and we were in the bottom 3. Very, very hard to attract players when you're in the bottom 3. Now, since then, if you forget the cup game, of course, we've had a little bounce in terms of results. We've had some good results against some big teams, and we've thrashed a crap team. So that's moved us up into 15th. Now, if you look at our next games against Newcastle, we've also got West Brom coming up. So you would say they were struggling. Also, Bournemouth are now below us. We're in 15th currently. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that come the January transfer window that actually we are in 10th or 11th. That is quite a realistic target. If you're in 10th or 11th for the Premier League, the players you can attract are significantly different to the players that you could attract if you're in the bottom 3. Not only significantly different in terms of players, what you would have to pay them to join you is different, because a half-decent player is going to charge a lot of money in terms of wages. Their agents can be pushing up the wages, saying, hold on, you're in the bottom 3 here, because they don't want to join you. You're mid-table, players might want to join you, so I expect some activity because of that. But let's not be fooled. Just because we'll be sitting mid-table, which I hope we are, doesn't mean we can rest on our laurels. We've got to bring players in.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure we'll see that much activity. I think 1, maybe 2 might go out, and might see 2, maybe 3 come in. I don't think there'll be huge changes because David Moyes is doing well with what he's got, and I think the problem that we've always seen with this board, if you like, as well, what he's got is enough to see us through till the end of the season and keep us in the Premier League, so he doesn't really need much more. But let's talk about the going outs now. I think we can both agree on Sacco, selling him. I assume, would you sell Sacco?
Yeah, I mean, I understand he kicked off again yesterday. As I say, I've literally been shopping all day, and I don't, you know, it's like I don't have a chance to check the phone. Well, you tell me, he kicked off, right?
Well, there's different stories. Some are suggesting that he's been getting grumpy because apparently he gets a 50 grand a bonus when he starts in the Premier League. He's not been getting starts in the Premier League, and apparently he thinks that's the reason he's not getting played, because of this 50 grand bonus hanging over his head, and David Moyes won't play him because then he gets paid money. And then last night the stories were that he was getting pissed off again. To be honest, I'm not angry at him anymore. It's got to the point now that this is just normal behaviour for Diafra Sakho, where I've wanted them gone for a while. Remember, I said to you in the summer, I'd happily pay him to get out of the club. That's how much I wanted him gone. So my opinion has not changed as such. I feel sorry for him. He tried to leave in the summer. He made it obvious to the world that he wanted to leave, but he's still here. Now, I struggle to blame Sakho for that. I blame the people in charge of the transfers at the time. They should have got him out of the club, but they didn't. They failed to do anything until the day before the deadline, and he's still here. So I actually feel sorry for Diafra Sakho. He's tried to leave. He's done his best to get out of the club, but the people in charge just won't let him get out of the club. So I find it hard to feel really angry with him. But say 10 million come in, would you sell him for 10 million?
Well, absolutely, because he's free to go where he wants in 6 months' time. You have to take any fee that you get offered for him. It's not as if we are reliant or dependent on his goals. Clearly, the style he plays is not a way Moyes wants to go. We know Moyes is here for the rest of the season at least. So why keep him? You'd certainly be better off keeping some. I mean, I'd probably take 5 million for him, to be honest with you. I don't even think, if he's not going to be played, it's pointless him hanging around.
Yeah, I think me and you might disagree on this one then. But what about Andre Ayew? I've seen reports in the last 2-3 weeks saying that we'll accept 12 to 14 million for him, sign him for 20 million. He is one of the highest earners at the club, though. Would you sell him?
Well, that's a hell of a loss. If they're a player that you've signed for 20 million, which at the time was our record signing before Arnautovic broke that record, by selling that player for 12 million or 15 million, what you said, you're admitting you got it wrong. And we did get it wrong, because actually I think in the same way that Hernandez was in many respects the wrong signing because he didn't fit in with what the current manager likes and and Slaven Bilic likes, that was a poor signing. I also thought not a lot of thought went in to the Ayew signing. I think we tried to get a few players. If you remember, Sullivan did his interview where he said we've got to get a 20-goal a season striker, if you remember him sat up there. And we just didn't manage it. I think we went in for 2 or 3. We didn't get them. And then we end up signing Ayew, who is not really that guy. So that's admitting defeat. So, and it's a hell of a loss on a player. I think he's a poacher, as in the same way that I think Hernandez is a poacher. But I don't think we're going to see him in those poaching positions under David Moyes. I just don't think we are. So I think I probably would sell him. Yeah, I probably would, just because I don't think he's going to be deployed in his favourite position. He's not quick enough as a winger. He's not quite creative enough as a midfielder. It's a shame. I do think he links quite well with Lanzini, actually, when they play 1-2s and stuff like that. But I don't think we're going to see him deployed in the team where he can do that.
I would keep him. I think he's a really good player. I think he's one of our more technically gifted players in comparison to a few others. Certainly better with the ball than Andy Carroll. I'd argue Diafra Sakho as well, etc. in terms of going forward. 12 million, you're not going to get better than Andre Ayew for 12 million. That's the other thing. You've got to replace him. And who are you replacing him for 12 million? I don't think you'll be able to do it. Does he fit into Moyes' system? No, but then that's where the challenge then comes down to David Moyes to alter the system when you are going to start Andre Ayew so that he does fit into it. You know, instead of putting square pegs and round holes, how about you make a square hole when you're playing Andre Ayew rather than just trying to chuck him in and be done with it? Actually change your game, change your tactics so that you get the best out of him. So I wouldn't sell him for 12 million. I'd be disappointed to see him go as well. He's still one of our top goal scorers this season, and he's hardly played any minutes. That's how ridiculous it is. I'd be very sorry to see that. I think this would be a mistake selling him, because if he gets a run, starts scoring again, he's worth his 20 million plus come the summer. So no, I wouldn't. I think he's only just turned 27. So he's still got the best 2-3 years of his career, in theory, ahead of him. I'd like to see that at West Ham, not another Premier League side, scoring against us. Is there any other players you would sell in January?
Well, hold on, before we go into that, just to come back on what you said about Sakho and the 12 million. I agree, you don't get a 12 million pound player. You know, I agree in that. But let's just say Moyes has got 25 million to spend. Well, actually, that 12 million boost that up to 37, and it might not be that he gets a direct replacement. Also, you think if Sacco goes out, actually it just boosts his war chest. So maybe you almost you use that 25 million, you get rid of Sacco, you get rid of Ayew, and actually let's say you end up with 45 million. And you get two players with that. I think you can possibly get two better players than those two. So you can sort of jiggle it around a little bit and make it work.
That's spending all your budget on replacing two players rather than actually improving what you've got.
But if he's not starting, my point is, if he's not starting, I know what you're saying about changing the formation and square pegs and round holes and whatnot, but I don't think he's ever going to get that run in the team to boost his value so as he can be that £20 million player again. I don't think Moyes is going to put him in the first team, never mind change the shape of the first team to accommodate him. I think you probably would. I think you've got a player like Lanzini, for instance, who's possibly our best player or whatever, most technical player of his day. I think you probably would try and change the formation to sort of make it work. I think in many respects, you look at the money that Chicharito's on, I think he should be changing the formation for someone like him, maybe, if he was going to do that. Or if you've got lots of centre-backs, you change formation and play lots of centre-backs. You do whatever. But I just don't think he's going to do it for somebody he really sees as a reserve team player.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. But the thing is, though, if you're spending all your money replacing those two players, it means you can't bring in a centre midfielder, for example, on a decent transfer because you've just spent your money replacing players.
Maybe he replaces him with a central midfielder. Maybe he thinks, actually, I don't need this player in Ayew who plays in the margins, not quite a striker, not quite a winger. Maybe I'd actually rather have a central midfielder in my squad, and then Obiang goes on the bench or whatever. Maybe that's his thinking.
Is there anyone else, though, you would sell in our squad just now? I know that I've got loads of players, but is there anyone else you would happily see leave?
Yeah, I'd happily see Andy Carroll leave, actually. I would. I don't. First, he came on last night. The first thing he did was foul someone. All right, it wasn't the worst foul in the world. I just don't see Andy Carroll getting any better. We've waited for a long, long time at West Ham for Andy Carroll to come good. And there's been patches when he's looked really good and he scored some goals. But the thing we were really waiting for, the thing we really wanted to happen, was for Andy Carroll to have a sustained period of time where he didn't get a serious injury. And then it was always a belief when that happens, then you will see the guy. Then you'll see the guy we paid 17 million for. Then you'll see the guy that Liverpool paid 35 million for. Then you will see the guy that is, up until recently, our top wage earner. Well, you know what? We've just had that period of time. It's been no big Achilles injury. There's been no big knee injury. He might have missed training once or twice with Knox. But Andy Carroll, I think, and somebody maybe tell me the stats, it seems to me, has been fit for the longest period that he's been at West Ham. We've just had it. Do you know what? He's not scored a goal all season. I don't think Andy Carroll's getting any better. I think that dream that we had that one day when he was fit, he was going to score loads of goals. I think we're here now, and it ain't happened. So also his contract is running down a bit as well. I think maybe he's got a year left or something. So I wouldn't be sorry to see Andy go.
Yeah. I would sell him. I mean, I've been a big fan of Carroll, but I think he's missing his jumps to start the same as what they were a year ago, even last season. I don't know if it's just one injury too far or something, but something's changed about him a little bit. I feel really sorry, actually. I was hoping he'd be a success, but for a third choice striker, which is what you're hoping he would be at West Ham, especially for next season, he's not a bad third choice striker to have. I'm a bit torn on Andy Carroll, but at the same time, if a bid come in, and if you're going to get a bid for Carroll, it's going to be this window because there's quite a few teams needing a striker, and they're all desperate. There's West Brom, Swansea, and Bournemouth, I think, are in the market for one as well, although I'm not too sure why when they've got King, Afobe and Defoe, but apparently they are. But West Brom and Swansea are two, and Newcastle, three clubs, three managers who probably, well, Swansea don't have a manager just now. If they get Tony Pulis...
Have they Swansea sacked the manager?
Yeah, Paul Clement's been sacked tonight. So if they go for Tony Pulis, that's three managers, in Pardew, Pulis and Benitez. I probably wouldn't mind an Andy Carroll type of striker. So the market for selling Andy Carroll is probably as strong as you're going to get. The only other player I would add to that is Chet Kiati. I know I'm going to get a lot of stick for that, but I've never been his biggest fan. I just don't get it. And the last 3 or 4 games, we've not missed him. We have not, at no point have I thought, oh, if only we had Chet Kiati on the bench to bring on. If only we had Kiati, we need to improve centre midfield. And the one player that has to get out in order to create space, I think, to be fair, I think we need one without creating space anyway, is Kiati. Obiang and Noble stay, and one, maybe even two more come in into that centre midfield. And also there's another guy, Josh Cullen. His loan's up on the 31st of December, unless they've extended it and we don't know about it yet. So I'm hoping he comes back because we've got a void in that middle of the park. And Declan Rice can play there. For me, I would give it a Kiati. I think his value would be quite high. He'd probably happily move. Senegal, I believe, got to the World Cup. So he's away to the World Cup in the summer as well. I would sell him. You'd get a big fee for him. If David Moyes wants to boost his war chest, that's how I would boost it, by selling Kiati. I don't think it'll go down well with everybody, but that's who I would be selling.
The great irony about Kiati is Kiati finally has a system in place by a manager that really suits him. Unfortunately, the manager is deploying him in the wrong position. As I've always said, with the three centre-backs, you need one that's going to bring it out from the back. And actually, I think Kiati would do really well in that role, not as the as possibly the right-sided one of the three centre-backs. So I think there is space there for him. But as you say, we do have problems in midfield. I understand the call for Cullen. I actually think Cullen would have done very well last night. I made the point on the forum actually last night. We struggled to retain the ball, and whilst Cullen doesn't represent a goal threat, and I've spoken to some Bolton fans this season as well in the Boozer before the Crystal Palace game, and they were saying the thing about it. He doesn't get forward enough, but what he does do, and they were saying he passes sideways. Well, you know what? Passing sideways wouldn't have been a bad thing last night because he would have found another claret and blue shirt. So yeah, I can understand that one as well. But there's big work needed in central midfield, and I just don't think that combination of Kiati and Obiang is ever going to work because there's just not a technical enough player in there.
It's because Kiati's got zero discipline, and while Josh Cullen can retain the ball, Kiati can't. The geezer can't pass the ball. He doesn't want the ball at his feet either. I don't see what he brings. I've been banging this for 2 years now or something. You're probably fed up of it, but like I keep saying, he's athletic, but so is Mo Farah. Do we want him in centre midfield? No, we do not. We want to see, going forward, I think West Ham need to try and get two centre midfielders. One, a defensive midfielder that can shield that back forward. Two, a ball play midfielder who can get it from A to B pretty quickly, etc. But let's start talking about players that's coming in then. You guys at home, let us know who you would sell. We've got Sacco, Ayew and Caro from Gonzo. And myself, we've got Sacco, maybe Caro and Kiati. The one player I've seen us sort of half linked to today, which amused me, is Chelsea centre back David Luiz.
Yeah, I mean, I've got I don't know where we would play David Luiz, and bearing in mind, I think did they not buy him back for 35 million, or did he go? I think he went to PSG for 50, and they bought him back for 35. Number one, we can't afford David Luiz. David Luiz is a player, and it's, as you know, I don't really follow England and I'm not unpatriotic. The rugby team, the cricket team, I'm very patriotic, but the football team do my nutting, and they have done for years and years and years due to a lack of technique. And I always used to laugh because, do you remember Brazil used to have a centre back called Luciao? Remember Luciao? We used to laugh at him. We laugh at Luciao. We laugh at David Luiz. And in this country, we laugh at players like that. But you know what? Any team that wins stuff tends to have a player like that. We laugh. There's us with Phil Jagielka in centre back, and we're laughing at everyone else's centre backs. David Luiz, very, very good technical player. But he reminds me of a guy who used to play for Chelsea called Frank Leboeuf. And I just was never sure exactly what position David Luiz should play, because he almost looks like he should play as a central defensive midfielder. He's got a hell of a shot on him, very, very technical, but he sort of goes missing at centre-back, which I think when you play for Brazil or when you play for Chelsea or Paris Saint-Germain, it doesn't matter because you're attacking so much. You're not actually getting attacked much yourself. I think a player like that in David Moyes' system, where we are defending all the time, you're more prone to see a lot of mistakes. So I don't think he would fit into our system, and I don't think we could afford him either.
No, apparently it's 32 million, but apparently Chelsea are sort of open to the idea of loaning him out, which is a bit surprising. But I suppose if he's got a World Cup campaign coming up, he needs to be playing football. He ain't doing that at Chelsea. So, strange link, I thought, anyway. Another link today that I'll be very surprised you've heard of him. Have you heard of Sam Johnson, the goalkeeper?
Never, no.
He's on loan from Manchester United. He's on loan to Aston Villa this season. Apparently his form's been startling, and there's a few Premier League clubs looking at him for about $5 million. He's 24 years old now, but apparently West Ham are looking at getting him in the summer to replace Joe Hart, and that would be our keeper for next summer. So cheap option, but a young option actually. I'd quite want to see someone with that age who's got experience. So I'm all for that actually, assuming he's good. I don't know. I've heard of him. That's about it. But the big rumor that's been going about today, I don't think we're going to get him, but he's a defensive midfielder, Steven Nzonzi.
Yeah, I remember him at Blackburn. He was very good, high energy, tall lad, very stridey, very athletic. He was a good player actually, Nzonzi. So I wouldn't be unhappy. I believe he's 29 now, so maybe not one for the long term. So the age thing, I'll be a little bit reluctant, but maybe beggars can't be choosers. We do have problems in central midfield. I wouldn't be sorry to see him come in. I think he would bring energy and a bit of technical ability as well.
Yeah, he's excelled actually, because I remember him coming to Blackburn, $500,000, then he went to Stoke and did well at Stoke, then he's gone to Sevilla and he's really pushed on in the last couple of seasons, etc. Fell out with the manager, hence why he's moving. Apparently he's in London, right? Apparently he's over in London right now. But we're in a battle with Everton, although it looks like Arsenal are now coming in for him as well. I think he's going to go to Everton because Allardyce brought him to Blackburn, so Allardyce has got the upper hand here. He's also got the cash behind him, etc. Rumoured to be between 20 million and 35 million, so it depends what article you read as to his price. I think it is neither the 30, but I just can't see us paying that for a 29-year-old. And I go back to David Sullivan's article in The Guardian where he said we're going to be targeting younger players in January. That does not fit with it. We've just got too many 28, 29-year-olds, 30-year-olds in our team now, and Arnautovic is one. Now, while he's been the best player the last few games, etc., in 2 seasons' time, you're going to need to replace him. And it'll be the same with this Nzonzi. In 2 seasons' time, you're probably going to have to replace him. Martin Noble is the same age as him. You can't have 2 people the same age as your sort of centre midfield pairing, because then in 2 years' time, it's going to cost you 60, 70 million to replace the pair of them. It's just not feasible. Fantastic player. I won't complain if we get him, but I'll be very wary of the price tag in terms of, it's a bit like Joe Hart. Is he a good player? Yeah. Is he worth that much money to West Ham United? I'm not so sure. Would you take him for that price, bearing in mind he had only just turned 29, to be fair to him?
Yeah, I didn't know the price tag actually. So I was saying all that. 29, that's the high energy position. 29 for a centre back. Not that you'd pay 30 million for a centre back, but 29 for a centre back, you think, okay, that's okay. 20 million for a guy that might pull the strings for someone that plays Iniesta's type game, for instance. Fine, but what you're trying to buy there is your high energy player. Well, your high energy player, he's gonna, when you look at the stats after each game, that central midfield position should be the top of it in any team, because you're running back and forth.
Well, to be fair, he doesn't really run backwards and forwards. He sort of sits in front of the back four. He doesn't necessarily go into the final third as such, which is what I think we need. He's like Rolling Cavallo, if you like, that sort of. He's like Matic. If you want to compare him to a Premier League player, he's got the style of Matic about him. But he doesn't
I remembered him being a bit more box to box at Blackburn, so maybe he's altered his game slightly or whatever. But I still think for a midfielder, I'm still burnt. I keep thinking of, do you remember that geezer Diarra when we signed Maiga and we signed Diarra? Crikey, he was awful, wasn't he? And he wasn't. I don't even think he was 36, or I think he was 32 or something like that. The age thing is a slight worry for me, but I'd take him over Harry Arter, that's for sure.
Well, we discussed Arter in the last one. There's one other player we haven't discussed that we have been linked to. I liked him a year ago. Do you remember him? It's the return of Danny Ings.
Of course he did, yeah.
Danny Ings. I still want him. I still want Danny Ings. I would love to see him. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's only 24, so he's still quite young with a lot of. He has had 2 sort of horrendous injuries, but they're not. It doesn't mean he's injury prone. It just means he's been a bit unfortunate with 2 big injuries. That's why I think he's gettable, because he'll be cheaper. He hasn't played Liverpool. He has been getting played now and again by Klopp. He has been coming on as substitute. But for me, getting him on loan with a fee arranged for the end of the season, so if he is a success, we get him. But get him on loan initially is a no-brainer. It really is. If anything, I'd be going to Danny Ings and saying, listen, mate, you come here and you perform. There's an outside chance you can get on that plane for England at the World Cup. Very outside chance. But the strikers for England aren't exactly bang on fire just now. It's probably a closed door. However, that's I think he'd come. I actually think it's a realistic target as well. Do you like Danny Ings, or is it just me?
It's been such a long time since I've seen him play. I mean, he did very well at Burnley, didn't he? Very, very well. And I think he ran down his contract. And when he went to Liverpool, they had to pay a tribunal fee, if I remember. Looked quite sharp. He's a quick player, isn't he? He's quite quick. Runs around a lot as well. So maybe that would appeal to Moyes. I mean, I think that's the thing. But he's not a big lad, is he?
He's strong. He's not tall, but he's well built. He is strong.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a bit Defoe, if you like. Defoe's short, but he's well built, isn't he? You can't push him off the ball easily.
No, well, it just depends on whether he would appeal to Moyes or not. I guess that's the big thing. I mean, I think that is one of the big questions of this transfer window. It's clear. It's funny because we've spoken about flogging Carroll, about flogging Sacco, about flogging Ayew, all players forward. And, of course, he's got Chicharito. Actually, he's fancied none of those as centre forward. He's actually fancied our right winger, who was previously deployed as our right back for a little bit. That's who Moyes prefers as his striker. So I'm very interested to see what Moyes wants to do with that. I'm guessing he doesn't want to persevere with Antonio as a striker as his long-term policy. So I guess he would have his eye on somebody. But what it does show, the fact that he has not played any of those other strikers at the club, it shows the qualities that Moyes clearly wants in his striker. And so I think whoever he does bring in, if he does bring in a centre forward, he's going to be looking to mirror the sort of qualities that Antonio has. So I guess it's whether Moyes sees Ings in that sort of mould.
Well, I do. So if David Moyes wants a glowing recommendation for Danny Ings, he's got one here. The other striker I do like, and it's the same again. I said him a year ago. Assam Belonga. He's now at Borough now. He's still scoring in the Championship. Not at an alarming rate as I would have thought, but they're not setting the league on fire as such. I would still take him here as well. I think he would fit into David Moyes' style with his strength, his pace, etc. He had a horrendous injury a year and a bit ago, but he's been fit since, so he's showing that he's over it. He's fine now. Will you get him? Borough only signed him for, I think, 11 million in the summer, which I thought was a bargain. I think you might have to pay a little bit more than that, but I do think you could get him out of Borough while they're not in that top echelon of the Championship. But he might think, well, hang on, this team ain't going up this summer, so I do fancy my chances. Is there anyone you would like to see us go for in the January transfer window that we've not discussed then?
Yeah, there really is. I think it's the main position that we're lacking and have lacked for some time. We've been talking about the midfield being dysfunctional for a while, for 18 months. And I thought, and if you look, we played Man City in a friendly at the start of the season. And that was the first friendly where we sort of played the majority of the players we had available. And I remember us doing a show afterwards, and I said alarm bells are ringing for our central midfield here. We've got a real problem with ball retention. And so I want to, whilst I agree that something's needed to shield the back four, to a certain extent, the defensive side has been sorted out. Because I think, David Moyes, you can drill people to sit in front of the back four. You can drill, well, it's not even a back four, is it? It's, you know, your three defenders and then, you know, your wing backs and whatnot. So I think he's drilled a system whereby we can stop the opposition scoring very many goals. That's just by organisation. What organisation can't do is score you lots of goals. Actually, you need some technical ability then. And I think that's what we've been lacking for a long time. So I've loved the link with Wilshere because I think he brings you that. I think Lanzini needs someone to play with, to play 1-2s with, to enable us to get up the pitch. Someone that's on his wavelength. Remember Di Canio playing a number of times for us, and you just look at Di Canio sometimes, thinks nobody's on his wavelength. In a lot of times, there were times when people were, but you know, he would sort of throw his arms down and he would be frustrated because he was thinking, why aren't you seeing that run? Why you need players that are on a wavelength. The guy that I would go for, who wouldn't cost a bomb, is John Bostock. Now, John Bostock was the wonder kid, wasn't he? Was meant to be the future. He went from Crystal Palace to Tottenham. It never worked out for him. He completely flopped, actually. I think he ended up at Hull for a while. And he's had to resurrect his career. And he actually went over to France, to Lyon. And he's completely resurrected his career. He won the best player in the second division in France last year. And if you go and look at his clips, he's absolutely brilliant. He's tall, he's athletic, he's nimble, and he is incredibly technical. And he seems to have grown up. He seems to have got over. I think he didn't handle the pressure of being the next big thing when he was younger. And in many respects, much like Wilfried Zaha got the transfer to Man United, it all just came too early. He had to go back to Crystal Palace, and now he looks a better player for the experience. I don't think Bostock would cost a fortune, and I think he would come in. I think he'd be pleased to come home, and I think he would just improve the quality in our central midfield straight away.
Well, it's question time now. So for the people that are watching live on YouTube, get your questions into the live chat and I'll start writing them down. Let us know at home when you're watching this on playback or whatever. Let us know in the comments below who you would like to go for in January. Gonzo, one last topic for us to discuss while people are sending their questions in. Reece Oxford, he's finally got his first couple of starts over in Germany. He's done really well in them. Would you take him back in the January transfer window, or would you just leave him be in Germany? And also, would you sell him? There's talk that they want him. I can see why they would want him. They've ballsed up a little bit with Christensen of Chelsea. They ballsed that up. And I think they're scared of it happening again, so they're trying to get Oxford snapped up quick, I think.
Well, we've put a lot into Reece Oxford. I think there's been a lot of hype, and I think the club really had to fight off a lot of the bigger clubs to tie him down to his first professional contract. I wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't sell him at all. But I'm pleased he's playing. That was the idea of him going to the Bundesliga. We were quite annoyed that he hadn't been played. Of course, he went to Reading last year, didn't play. What we've wanted is Reece Oxford to go out and get first-team experience. And if he is starting games in the Bundesliga, there's just no point in recalling him at all, because he's not going to come straight into the first team and start playing games. So just leave him where he is. He's going to build his reputation. And actually, if Moyes stays on as manager and he's here next year, then at least he has half a season of looking at someone in the Bundesliga, and then he might think, actually, I can trust this guy. I just don't think there's any point in bringing him back at all.
Yeah, I have to agree. I would just leave him be. Even I remember saying this to you when he wasn't getting a game at all. I said, just leave him where he is. Let him settle in. He's only been there a few months. He's still only been there a few months. We're only 4 months into the playing season. Just leave him. Leave him be and see what happens. What about, just quickly, what about Cullen and Burke then? If their loans are supposed to be up on the end of this month so they can come back in January, would you take them both back or just one back or none of them?
Well, Burke's a very, very different proposition, because we're now playing 3 centre-halves. And also, Burke can also play at right back, don't forget. And Zabaleta is obviously getting on a bit as well. I think it might be wise to bring Burke back as a bit of cover. I spoke to these Bolton fans before the Crystal Palace game. They really rated Burke. They couldn't understand. They said, "Why are you letting him go? Why is he not playing for you?" And I explained to them, well, actually, we've got Declan Rice and Reece Oxford as well. So we've actually got quite a few young centre-backs as well as some senior centre-backs. So I might be inclined to bring him back. I possibly look to find a club for Cullen, though, because he's not played that much for Bolton. And he needs games. So, but if we were still in the cup, I'd bring Cullen back as well. But clearly we're not.
I would take them both back. They would have gone on the bench quite a few times this season, at least both of them. So I would take them both back. Because I seen earlier there's talk of us going for a centre back, and I've seen it linked to Johnny Evans, for example. But I don't think we need one in all honesty. I know Creswell's playing out of position, but we've still got Collins, Ogbonna, Reed. We've got Rice that can play there and is doing fine there. We've got Creswell that's doing well there. We've got Chiati that can play there. Get Burke back, and that's your centre-back solved, in my opinion. Don't spend money where you don't need to. And centre-back, for me, is a position we don't need to spend. Left back, we don't need to. Right back, we don't need to. Byram should be back soonish. You can't be that far away. Centre midfield is the only issue for me, and then it's sort of a one out, one in for the striker position. So Saka goes, get one in. Carroll goes, get 2 in. Before we move on to the questions, I was meaning to ask you this, because we spoke about this when David Moyes came in, but the window's now opening. Is it right to let a manager who's only got a 6-month contract be in charge of the transfer window? Is it right to let him decide to sell Andre Ayew or not, when if he is only here for 6 months, or should we give David Moyes a contract now and say, right, you've done well, we're putting our faith in you, here's a 2.5-year deal, now go make this your squad starting now?
No, I wouldn't do that. I've got to say, I want to see a little bit more evidence before we start chucking a contract to David Moyes. Let me say that. But I do think he does need to be backed. Do we back him with a £30 million player on a 5-year contract just because he said so? No, I think more has to go into it in terms of an investigation into whether he's the right player for the long-term future of the club. And I think that's where probably Tony Henry comes into the thinking. I think what David Moyes certainly can do. David Moyes is on a 6-month contract. He can bring whoever he wants on 6-month loans. If you say, you talk about David Luiz, if that's who he wanted and he was available on a 6-month loan because he wanted to get into the England team, do it. You talk about Danny Ings, 6-month loan, do it. At least if it doesn't work out for Moyes, then we're not saddled with players on long-term contracts. I think so. I think in that sense, no. I think if it's somebody like Jack Wilshere or let's say Ross Barkley, who I think is going to Chelsea anyway, but if it was players like that, I think it doesn't matter because that doesn't just benefit David Moyes. If David Moyes doesn't stay around, then I'm quite sure whoever come in afterwards will be happy with a Jack Wilshere or a Ross Barkley. So I think it depends on who you're buying, whether you back him. But I think some input from the scouting network at the club, and I do mean the scouting network at the club, is probably quite important before we go and spend big money on anyone.
Yeah, right. Let's have a look at some of the questions. Luke Malden says, when will we make a big signing, i.e. over £35 million?
Hello, Luke. Well, we won't. We won't. We just won't. I think we've already spent as much as we will spend on a player, and that's 24 million on Arnautovic. Doesn't mean I don't think we'll spend 26 million, but I don't think we're going to go 10 million over that. Not unless the next TV deal kicks in, and the next TV deal is bigger. So actually, inflation, you're not really paying 35 million. It's just 35 million becomes the new 25 million. I cannot see the current owners with their financial model spending that much on a player.
Nah, me neither. Newmarket says, is David Moyes another Allardyce, or are we going to see more adventurous football once we get more points on the board?
It's a cheeky one, Tim. I just think some people are hamstrung by their own DNA. And Tim's asking, he's been naughty. There's Newmarket is Tim. He knows what I'm going to say. So he's stirring the old pot. Really, I think Moyes is one of those managers. I think Moyes said he wants to play attacking football. He probably does want to. I just don't think he can. I think, and I think that's okay. I don't want to criticise him for it. He's brought in on a 6-month job, and if he gets us out of this, then he repairs his reputation. Which, if he'd have failed at this, he never gets another job. If he succeeds at West Ham, then actually he almost becomes the Tony Pulis. He becomes the guy you go to. He becomes the Allardyce. He becomes the guy you go to if your club is in trouble. That means whoever next year is in a bit of trouble, they get David Moyes in. And I'm pleased for him. If he repairs his reputation, I'm pleased for him, and he'll deserve it. If he's pulled us because we were in trouble, if he pulls us out of it, which it looks like he's doing, right, I thank you, honestly. I'll shake his hand for it. But he's not going to turn into Pep Guardiola once we get, so let's say we get into 10th position and suddenly we're safe. He's not going to take the shackles off and say, actually, I'm going to lose one of those centre-backs. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And we're going to play free-flowing football. It just ain't going to happen. He's always going to play it safe. We're always going to try and play on the counter. And the best we can hope for is that he gets some players in that can help his system work. Because at the moment, he's got Bilic's players trying to play a more system.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I enjoyed the Stoke win. I thought the football we played at Stoke was okay. I mean, it was good, probably arguably the best we've seen this season. It was a bit at times at the start of the second half when we just stayed inside our own box. I thought, oh Christ, I don't like this. But it's what we're going to have to get used to. My problem is, I get what the point of it is. Will it get boring? It could get boring very quickly, unfortunately. It just can. It is a bit Allardyce in a way that you set up to defend first, and it's the mentality of not lose rather than win. And but I don't blame Moyes. Just that's how David knew when Moyes got appointed. This is why a lot of people didn't want Moyes, because his football's boring. His track record, his last 2-3 clubs isn't great. So why are we getting him in? So I don't blame Moyes. So this is how he plays. It's a bit like when Allardyce was here when everybody wanted him out. I was quite content with it because I thought, well, this is how Alvarez plays. Only the people that to get blamed for this, the people employed him because they knew what they were employing. It's like you going to the shop and buying a spade and complaining it's not doing the job of an axe. Well, go buy an axe if you want an axe. Don't buy a spade and expect it to suddenly transform.
Well, talking about the axe, the reason that Allardyce got the axe was because his flaming system wasn't working. Let's get that right. On Allardyce's final season, he reverted back to type. He started off, he had players injured, Carroll, Nolan injured, he played down in behind the front two, he played Valencia, he played Sacco. It was really working. He got him out of the team, and then we went on, and I remember the stats there, our third worst run in 80 years, right? That's why he got the axe at the end. So what I would say is David Moyes' tactics are at least working. Allardyce's weren't working. The only problem is with it, they are great for getting us out of where we are, but that is not the type of football that fills 57,000-seater stadiums. And we will take it this season. We'll all take it, and we'll all sing. And hopefully he'll have a song sung about him and all the rest of it. But 2-3 years down the line, that's why West Brom get restless. That's why Stoke get restless. 2 or 3 years down the line, people are not turning up every week and filling almost 60,000 seats to watch defensive football where you only have 30% of the possession in a game.
Yeah, I think we're pretty thin at West Ham, to be honest. I think even come Saturday against Newcastle, we're 1-0 up and come out in the second half to defend our own box. I think every time the ball gets booted away, you'll hear everybody urging the crowd, get up the pitch. There's only so much they'll take, and that's what concerns me a little bit. It is boring, but he deserves a chance. So we'll wait and see. Adam says, what about Quina? I don't even know how you say this guy's name. I've heard about 10 people say it different. Quina, whatever. But he's rumoured to be sold to raise funds. What do you make of that?
Well, I just think it'd be really short term. He's not ready. I've said it. I'm boring everyone now. I've said it on numerous shows. He's not ready. Seen him in the flesh. Not ready. Not ready yet. There's other players that are more ready than him. But I have seen him play against other under-17 players, and he's above their level. So he will be ready one day. He'll be quite a good player. So it'll be very, very short term to sell him. We seem to want to force every sparkling 16, 17, 18-year-old into the first team all the time. Some of them just develop. He might not even be developed until he's 21. You don't know. But there's nothing wrong with him playing the under-23s. To sell him for whatever we'd get, £6-7 million. Crikey, that's what we got from Fletcher or Randolph, in it, or something. I don't see the point. Let him continue his education under Terry Wesley, who's doing a really good job with all those youngsters.
No, short answer for me. Do not sell. I don't think we'll sell him either. I think it's just paper talk. To be honest, I think it's. I just don't think we're agreeing a contract with him. It's re-socks for this. He's turned 18. He's not signing his pro deal. Apparently, I've seen somewhere. Didn't really make the headlines as such. Why would it? It's just a youth player at West Ham at the end of the day, saying that he wants about 20 grand a week, and West Ham are saying no, you're not getting that much money. So I think that's why there's this rumours that he's going to get sold. It's probably his agent trying to bump his wages up, etc., etc. Can't see it happening too. Ian Mkhitaryan at Man United, not fancied by Mourinho. Would you take him here?
Oh yeah. In a heartbeat. And I funny enough, I did think about it when I saw it rumoured. That's a good question, mate. For 35 million, you'll let him go for 35 million. Now I know I've just said to Luke that we won't spend 35 million, but wow, I mean that would be a next level player for West Ham.
Yeah, is that how much they're wanting? I'm surprised they want that much. He's quite. Is he not 29? He's quite old, I think. Because I remember when Man U bought him, I thought, oh, he'll be good for a couple of seasons at least. And so I thought I could be wrong. I don't
know, but he is one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. Clearly, Mourinho doesn't trust him, but that's no barometer of anyone. I think Mourinho's got a bit mad in the last couple of years anyway, so Mourinho's a bit suspicious.
The problem is he wouldn't fit David Moyes' style. He's a winger that doesn't really work hard all the time. He's a bit European, if you want to call him that. Moyes and Mourinho like similar players for a reason. So Mourinho doesn't fancy him. I don't think Moyes will, but I would take him here in a heartbeat. Technically, arguably the most one in the top 10 for the most gifted Premier League players. Anyway, not quite De Bruyne or David Silva, but he's not far off it. Mark Weir, this is an outside one. I think this guy needs to give his head a shake. But he says, what about Michael Carrick?
Oh no. Listen, he would retain the ball, but he's not well. I don't think Carrick's well, is he? I think he's got a serious health issue. Actually, I don't. We wish him well. Of course, he's yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I wouldn't. With him without the illness, I think Carrick's 36 or something like that. I don't think Carrick will ever play football again. Actually, to be honest with you, Mark.
No, and the other thing is he's actually quite important. Man, although he's not playing and he's ill, he's still their captain. I'm pretty sure he's the club captain still. Can't see it happening. His wages will also be astronomical for someone who's a bit part player at West Ham. Luke Malden again says, "What is this board's ambitions?"
Hey, Luke's in a feisty mood today. To sell the club. I'm sure of it. To sell the club. It must be to sell the club. It must be. I've said this before. Okay. If you gave me £5 million, right now, you wouldn't see me for dust. I would be I'd have the house on the beach. I'd have the cocktail in my hand. I would do nothing. Apart from spend that £5 million. An entrepreneur will take that £5 million and turn it into £10 million. At a point where you'll stop and think £10 million enough, they want to turn it into 50 million. Then they want to turn it into 100 million. That's what these people are. They're entrepreneurs. There is no way. So let's say they've spent 100 million buying the club. There is no way they are going to turn down 600 million. They're entrepreneurs. If they were happy with a certain amount of money, they would have stopped when their family was secure. They didn't. They kept on going. You've heard from Sullivan. He lives for the deal. He gets a buzz from the deal. He is not going to stop. And all this thing that they want to pass something on to the children, he's a billionaire. He's got plenty to pass on to children. It's not like you have to run a football club as a child. Or he can buy them he can buy them any business he wants. They can run a whole chain of restaurants. He could buy anything he wants to sort his kids out so they're secure. Any business they wanted to go into, he could even buy them another football club in the Championship afterwards. I think the ambition is to sell the club, not to pass it on so as generation after generation after generation of Sullivans can be involved in West Ham United. I don't think that's what's going on here, but I do think they need to sort it out so as the big pot of money is not paid over to the stadium, so as the stadium doesn't get 10% or, the LLDC, or so as a taxpayer. I think they want to wait for that to go or negotiate it out or get the stadium before they sell.
Yeah, little is possible investment and maximise their profit. It's just a business transaction to them, I think. Premier League survival, I think that's what it is. You know something, last night, the Cup told me what the board want. They can't be desperate for a Cup, because if they have, their employer has just stitched them up big time. And if that was any other business, you'd have your employer in your office first thing going, what the hell have you just done? Why have you just done that? Why have you just essentially thrown the Cup? So if the board genuinely want to win the Cup, David Moyes should be getting in the neck from them this morning. And to be fair, yes, David Moyes will say, well, hang on, I'm the manager, I get to pick. But then that's where they should go, well, yes, but at West Ham, we go for the Cup. David Moyes will have had a job specification. His job specification would have been surviving the Premier League. That League Cup thing, don't care about it. So to me, that shows that the club's ambition, not just David Moyes, the club's ambition as a whole, and that is Premier League survival. And the Cup, it can just get tossed aside. Now, that's all I'm going to say about the Cup before we get angry again. Luke also says he's two players have been put forward, one by Luke and one Victor. Luke says, what about a player, i.e. Maris? Ties in with his first question for when will we see someone for 35 million. Maris will be 35 million. So what about would you take Maris at West Ham? Would you pay that much for him?
Yes and yes.
Even though it's going to take up, say, your whole transfer budget in the summer, essentially. That's your whole summer budget.
Well, I'm not sure he particularly works as your central midfielder. I think we need someone who can work a little bit harder in central midfield. But I would take him. I think, Pyatt was brilliant for us. The only player that was better than Pyatt that season was Mahrez, in my humble opinion. I would. I mean, he's an absolutely brilliant player. Is he worth 35 million? Yeah, I think he was. If he was doing the sort of stuff that he does at Man City, he'd be worth 70 million or whatever. He's a very, very gifted player. And I say this quite a lot, we are not that good at West Ham yet that we can turn. I first said it with Ibrahimovic, and I've said it a few times. We're not so good that we can turn our nose up at players like Riyad Mahrez.
Until we can be a little fish in the big pond, we've got to be a big fish in the small pond first. Okay, is that one? No, the little fish in the big pond. We need to be a big fish in the small pond, and that is by doing what we did to Stoke, going after their main player and saying we're having him, thank you. That proved, or sort of sent out a message in the summer saying we're bigger than Stoke. We can take their best players. Going after Mahrez, we do that to Leicester. We'll say we're having Mahrez, thank you. They say no, you're not. We'll say here's your money. Thanks for Mahrez. That sends out a signal. We are bigger than Leicester City. We're more attractive than Leicester City. I think that's what you've got to do. There's probably a few clubs in the times gone by, and that's what Everton are trying to do. Everton tried in the summer, going around the Premier League clubs, taking their best player. Sigurdsson at Swansea, Keane at Burnley, Pickford at Sunderland. We'll have the best player from each of these clubs, and we'll build a squad. And that's what I think you have to do sometimes. You need to go into these clubs going, I'll have him, and I'll have him, and I'll have him. And you just puff your chest out a little bit, and you become a player, and you become a club that people start taking seriously a bit. But at the same time, you need to back that up by being a little bit shrewd, because in order to get a 35 million player, you need to go get a £5 million player that's going to be worth 35 million in a couple of years. And that's where we fall down, because there are a couple of defensive midfielders in the Premier League this season that are worth 30 million now, but they didn't cost their current clubs more than 10. They were under 10.
These are the Watford things are. They can name again with B.
Cody.
He's bloody good.
He was there for more than the season, though. I think he's just excelled. But Newcastle, they've got the best one. There's a stat show coming up on this channel. It's our very first stat show. I'm into my stats. Me and Charlie have been trying to work on how to bring stats to the channel. So we're coming up with a series which is stats based. Might bore you, but we're trying to make it as fun and interesting as possible. And our first one is on centre midfielders. So we're comparing Obiang, Noble, and Kiati to other centre midfielders in the Premier League. They don't fare very well. The one centre midfielder that fares very, very well, comes out on top, is Marino of Newcastle. It cost him 7 million this season. 7 million, and he's top. He's in the top of the charts for things like interceptions, clearances, etc. They go on from Spain, well, via Bundesliga, if you like, from Dortmund. But the players are out there. You just got to go get them. So you need to do both, I think, domestically and scour the world and get the best one in. Last one, Victor. A player that we have been linked with. Well, I've not really seen it in the newspapers, but Exeter employee says we're looking at him. That's good enough for me. Schneiderlin of Everton.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made some really good points there about going and picking the best players from clubs who are sort of around you. I think that's really good. It makes a lot of sense what you said. And I think you can add to that someone like Schneiderlin, but that's a different type of player. Now, that is a player, funny enough, like Zaha. That's a player that has already been signed by a top club, and then it didn't work out, and then he's moved back down the ladder. But there's still a good player there. There's still a very good player there somewhere. And there are a lot of players that's happened to. You'd look at Johnny Evans as now at that stage. Man United's, okay, got sold down. He's done a bit of stuff at West Brom. And now actually it's rumoured Man City are interested in him as well. So you can come back up. And I think Schneiderlin is one of those players. When Schneiderlin was at Southampton, Arsenal were very, very interested as well. Obviously, when he got signed, he went to Man U. And it didn't really work out. So he got flogged on. I mean, has he featured much for Sam?
Sorry, I'm typing to the live chat.
It's all right, mate. Has he featured much this season since Sam's come in?
Since Sam's come in, he has. Yeah, he was sort of shunned out by Ronald Koeman, but under Aldice, he started the last few games in centre midfield. However, thereafter, Steven Nzonzi.
Yeah, well, it may well be. It may well be though. But he is someone that can do an awful lot of different jobs in midfield. Actually, it was a very, very good player, and I can't imagine he's got crap instantly. It just maybe his face didn't fit at top clubs. But as I've said, that happens with a lot of players.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It would depend on the price for me. Is it the type of midfielder when he's the right type, but he's a bit like Obiang to me. He's sort of like jack of all trades, master of none. He doesn't really excel at anything. And for me, I think you need to get in modern football. I think you almost need two centre midfielders that excel in something. They have a characteristic about them that one of them is the ball player, one of them is defensive midfielder. So that defensive midfielder, that's why Kante is worth millions now. I know Chelsea going for 35. He's worth double that now. He's really worth tens and tens of millions because he's essentially what Colin McAlealy was at Real Madrid. He was ahead of his time. He just sat in front of that back four and he just broke up play, tackled people, chased the ball by and just gave it to someone else. That's all he did.
And it's also why Paul Pogba was so much money and broke the world transfer record, because actually he can run, pass, tackle, head. He can do a lot of stuff. It's why Roy Keane was for years. There's they're a top commodity. And unfortunately, at West Ham, I think you're quite right. We can't actually afford to have one of these all round. We can't afford a Paul Pogba or something. So we have to have one tackler and one playmaker. They have to be two different players.
It's not bad things though. You look at Leicester with Ndidi. They've got someone there who can break up the play, etc., and he gives it to Bora, who is the ball playing centre midfielder. And it's so basic. It sounds so simple. Like it's not as simple as that. Sometimes it is. You look at Chelsea. Canty gets it, gives it to someone that can actually distribute the ball a little bit better. Although it's not wrong with Canty short passing, gives it someone that can do the through ball, someone that can dribble and run at players, etc. Stats are there. I believe in stats. Not everybody does, but that's where I come from. But Gonzo, is there anything you'd like to add before we finish?
No, mate, we've covered a ton of stuff, really, I think.
Yeah, so basically you want John Bostock in the January transfer window, or you're going to riot.
No. You're paraphrasing me like that geezer yesterday. Be a good player. Obviously, I still would like Jack Wilshere to come in. I think that would be a really, really good signing for us. But that was a sort of left of field one that maybe people hadn't thought of, the Bostock one.
Yeah, I'm all for the Danny Ings. Danny Ings trade is right here. I want Dan. Honestly, by the way, you guys at home, let us know what you think. We haven't discussed some players that we are linked with because we've discussed them before. So the likes of Harry Arter, Jack Wilshere, etc. We've discussed them the last time. We don't want to repeat ourselves too much. So you can let us know in the comments below what you think of those links, though. If you would want them at West Ham, who you want at West Ham, who you sell in the January transfer window. We'll be back tomorrow night on Thursday. Gonzo's not here. So, Gonzo, what's your quick prediction for Saturday then?
Oh, I think we'll win. I do think we'll win. I think it's big. I think Benitez is. It's just a club. It's a club. Unfortunately, they've not done the sale, which I think would have buoyed Benitez. The new owner would have come in and said, "You got X amount." I think Benitez is still whinging and still worried that he'd be saddled with Mike Ashley and not doing anything in January. So I think Benitez is at a low ebb. I think we're going to win.
What's your score prediction? Give us.
I think we win 2-0.
2-0. Well, you can find out my score prediction tomorrow night on Thursday, as I'm joined by Young Tom and someone else you might have seen on the Hammers Chat YouTube channel, but he's not been on a Talk a Good Game before. So find out on Thursday. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. As always, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you tomorrow night.